Alright, what's up everybody and welcome back. So if you do a Google search for music players, you're going to get a ton of different types out there. There's a lot of different designs floating around on the internet and a lot of ways to do this. There are some commonalities between these album covers, between these apps, and as we go through them, try to pick out things that you like, and if you don't see anything that you're in love with, go out, do your own search, and use that as part of your design for the assignment when you go through it later. Let's go ahead and jump into Sketch here, and I'll show you the first one I have here. So I've got some design elements over here on the right hand side. I'll try to use all of those. I got an album cover that matches this one here. The thing I like about this is I like the way the album cover art is displayed in this manner. Let's get it sharpened up just a little bit. The icons are okay, no problem with those, and we'll recreate some but not all of this, and I want to show you how to go about doing it. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to hit O for oval on my keyboard. I'm going to hold down Alt-Shift and draw one out. And we'll go with something like that there. Doesn't have to be perfect. We'll use this oval to start creating this outside ring. So we'll have the red ring going around the outside and have it transition into this gray one right here. And it looks like it cuts off about right here and maybe right there. Alright, so with that oval created, I'm going to hit Command D to duplicate it, so I have another one right on top. We'll change this to a reddish color, like we normally do. I'm going to hold down Alt-Shift, click and drag this in, and I'm going to try to get that thickness. Now, if it jumps on you like that, that's fine. What you can do is zoom in. Oops, Command Z. Trying to hit my space bar so I can reposition here. Let's get this guy selected. I'm going to hold down Alt-Shift again, and I find that if you zoom in a bit, it gives you a little more control over how quickly or how much it jumps, and it's still kind of jumping. So if that's the case, keep zooming in. That's one option. Another option, if you want to get it even smaller, which I kind of do, you can come over here to the inspector and then just bump up the controls here. So I bumped it up 1 pixel, maybe bump it up 1 more. I'm going to select both of these guys, and then I'll just center them horizontally and vertically. So now I have a nice little ring here, so that's one way to go around that. With those two selected, I'm going to come up here to my Boolean operations, click on subtract. Now I've got a nice little ring to work with. And I'm going to need a copy because one is going to be red, one is going to be gray, and they're going to go right on top of each other. So let's click off, let's select our top ring right here, and with that one selected, I'm going to hit Command D to duplicate it. Let's go ahead and hide the bottom one for now. So with the top one selected, let's change this to that reddish color. So I'll come over here to my fills, get my eyedropper, we'll select that to get started. Now we want to slice it up a bit. So the way I'm going to do this, a couple different ways to go about it. I'm going to use the vector drawing tool. I'll click off. I'm going to hit V for vector, and I'll just try to create a slice going straight across here. So I'll place a point here, and I'll place a point here. Now one thing about this when you're drawing vector images, you could draw this pretty much any way you want, but what you don't want is to draw it across here and have kind of a jagged line. You want it to be a nice clean slice right across the edge, so you want it to be straight across here so you have a nice crisp cut. Alright, so we'll drop down here, and our next cut is going to be right about there. So we want to go right across. We don't want to have it angled. So something like that. And then just keep clicking, drag this up over here. Close that off. We'll come over here in the inspector and click Finish Editing. I'm going to go ahead and apply a fill. Let's take away the border just because I don't like it there. I'm going to hold down Shift and select both of these shapes. So I have my crazy little path here, and then I've got my ring. Let's go ahead and subtract. Now I have that ring back. Let's bring back our other combined shape. This is the other ring we have, so I'm going to click the little eyeball there. So now we have it back. And this time, we want to take away these parts down here. So right here and about right there. So we can draw another vector. So V for vector. Let's draw it right across there. And I'll do it a little bit further back. Something like that there, right straight across. And if you mess up, you can always go back after you draw it, or even after you've already applied the Boolean operation and changed things up a bit. So I think that's good there. Let's go ahead and apply a fill, take away the border, click Finish Editing. Now let's go ahead and select this gray ring here and do the same thing as before. Click Subtract. And now we have our ring. So we have the little status ring that shows just how much of the song played and how much is left, indicated by the gray here. So with that gray selected, let's go ahead and apply a darker gray there, like they have in their design. I'm just going to drag this down to about there. Alright, next up, let's get an oval to contain our cover art, and we'll just use a mask for that. Because generally you want to create a mask just so your album art is going to fit exactly into the shape that you have selected, whether that's an oval or rectangle. You want it to fit in there rather than having to resize the album covers. So with this, just to make it easier, rather than drawing another oval here, let's go back to our combined shape and let's find our original combined shape with the oval, not the one that extended. So if I hover over these, as I hover over the bottom oval in my screen here, you'll see that it extends past the bounds of the red portion. What we want is for it to be this inner circle here. So let's go the one that we copied right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hit Command D to duplicate that size, and then we'll just drag it right out of here so we can reuse it. And I want to see that line above, so then it drops in. Okay, so now we have that. Let's just make it a different color just to make it easier to see. Let's come over here to the fills and let's do kind of a white. Alright, so from there, I'll zoom out. Let's go ahead and grab our album cover here. Let's drag it right over the top. And it is bigger than the circle, which is what we want, but I want it to be above that oval. So in the Layers panel, I'm going to click it, drag it up above. That's good. Now let's select that, hold down Shift and select our oval and mask it out. There we go. So now we have our album art cover. Next up, I'm going to make this pause button here. I want to show you guys a little something. So let's hit over oval. I'm going to hold down Alt Shift just to draw one out. About the same size, something like that. Let's change it to a white color. And really quickly, let's get some rectangles on the inside just to make a pause button. So you hit R for rectangle. Let's draw that out. Let's get a reddish color. Oops, Command Z. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so I can get a little more control over this. Make it a little smaller. I'm going to drag this right here. I'll hold down Alt and just drag out a copy. Put them right next to each other. And now just to make it easier to work with, I'm going to select both of these guys, hit Command G to group them. And then over here in the Layers panel, I'll call this pause icon. Alright, now with that selected, I'm going to hold down Shift and just get it centered within my circle. So I have both of these selected. I'll come up here into the inspector and just use my alignment tools, get that right in the middle. Don't care that it's not exactly like that. But what I do want to point out to you guys is that when you have icons like this, adding a little bit more detail can make all the difference. If you look at this one right here, you'll see that it has a slight drop shadow here. We can click and drag this over into ours, get it centered here. So by itself, it looks okay. Let me zoom out. I mean, it's not horrible, but adding a little bit more detail can make all the difference. So things like drop shadows, and right now we have it grouped, so let's go back in. Let's find our original oval and add a drop shadow. Let's do a 2 there, a 2 there. You can expand it if you want, but just that little drop shadow can make all the difference. And we can add another drop shadow towards the top here. Let's just duplicate this, and then this time let's take away the X. Let's apply a minus Y value so it pushes a shadow upwards. Go with like a -1. Let's drop the blur down just a little bit. You could keep it like that. That's actually a good effect too if you wanted to get it somewhat like this. You could click on the color here and drop the alpha down just a little bit more. Make it a little more subtle. You can brighten up the color. Something a little bit lighter. But my point being that just a little bit of added detail can make all the difference in your design. Another point I want to make is that with a lot of the icons, you can make a lot of these yourself. With the triangles here, you can definitely make those. They've got some rounded corners here. So if you came up to Insert, let's go to Shape. Let's draw a rectangle. I'm going to hold down Shift to get it proportional. Let's get something like that. I'm going to zoom way in here, and I'm going to rotate this down to 90 degrees. We can shorten this up a little bit, bring it in, and now the whole thing is shortening. If you just want to do it width-wise, let's come over here to our lock icon in the inspector. Let's unlock that guy, and let's just bring the width in just a tiny bit. Now it doesn't look like these corners, it might be a little bit rounded. Now with it selected, you don't have the ability to apply a radius over here, so what you want to do is double click, and then you can round the corners individually. So we could put just a slight radius, maybe like a 1 on each of these corners. There you go. Point being that you can create a lot of your own icon. You don't always have to go out and grab from external sources. So there we go. I'm good with this one. Let's go ahead and move on to the next example.